know I am a total flower nerd. Really, I'm a self-professed flower nerd. I love flowers, I love learning about flowers, and teaching others what I know. I also love designing lots of different types of arrangements and designs. And one of my favorite things to make is a bouquet to gift. Now, there are so many reasons why you would put together a bouquet of flowers to gift to someone, and really, there's nothing I can't think of that wouldn't be a perfect situation for a flower gift. So why don't I show you how to quickly put one together? There's a few tricks that I use, and hopefully they'll help you gift flowers to your friends and family. So we're going to get started here. I have all of my materials laid out, and this is one of the most important tips. The most work that you'll do when you're putting together a bouquet is the prep work. So what you basically want to do is go through all of your flowers. For example, this is a seedum, and I have removed all of the leaves off of the stem. And I've done that on just about everything I plan to use. You know, there may be still a few at the top, but for the most part, all of the stems are clean and ready to go. I've got them in orderly bunches so that I can quickly see what materials I have to work with, and I can just start to put it all together. Now, my favorite thing to start with is greenery. I like to create a sort of nest of greenery in the center of my bouquet. That provides structure for my flowers to thread into, and that technique is also called lacing. So here I've got some variegated pittosporum, and as you can see, it is very fruitful. It's a really hardy foliage, so it works out really well to start as our base. Then I've got some flat fern here, which is just really a beautiful fern that goes perfect with the autumn season. So I'm going to thread this through the pittosporum. Now, my goal for this bouquet is for it to be round when it's finished. I'd like it to be a radial design, so it will look like it's all originating from the same central binding point, which will be down here where my hand is. And so I'm keeping that in mind as I'm building my bouquet. And I've got my fern coming in at different directions, fanning out on the side, even putting some of my stems in on an angle from the side itself, and making sure that I'm catching that stem up in the middle of the bouquet. So see, it's not falling out because I've got it up in the middle where there's some real meat, we'll call it, in the center of the bouquet to hold on to that skinny stem. So already I have a beautiful base to work with. And as we add our flowers, there will be even more. So I'm going to move on first to my hydrangea. And this is a beautiful garden style hydrangea. It starts as white and it fades to sort of brown and pink as the season goes on, and it dries really beautiful. And I also love it because it just fills in so quickly. Look at how quickly that's already filling in. Next up, I'm going to move on to my seedum. As I mentioned, I stripped all of the leaves off of the side of the seedum. And this is a really nice shade of blush or light pink, which typically is not traditionally included in fall color schemes, but it really is becoming more and more on trend to mix the brown tones with the pinks. And if you do it right, if you mix in some burgundies and some Merlot colored flowers, which we're going to do, it really can give an autumnal vibe to your mix of colors. Okay, so you can see I've sort of evenly dispersed my seedum there, and I've already got a beautiful round look going. Next up, I'm going to add in our amaranthus. This is a beautiful burgundy hanging amaranthus, and I want this to drape out from the middle, so I'm going to keep it on the outskirts of the bouquet. Now, I don't want to take it and just put it directly on the outside because the hanging part does need a little bit of structure. So I'm going to just go maybe about one layer into the heart of the bouquet, or the meat of the bouquet as we called it, and thread it right in there. I sort of loosen this hand as I'm trying to thread, and that opens up the stems and allows more to get in there. And so now we've got some structure in there. Oh, this is a gorgeous piece. I'm gonna have this one. Actually, this is a heavier piece. You can see how thick the stem is. So I'm actually gonna put this one right in the middle so I make sure that it has enough support. If you put such a heavy stem on the outside or close to the outside, you run into the possibility that it might just kind of want to flop right out of the bouquet. So I'm going to continue around the outskirt of my bouquet here with my amaranthus, leaving some higher and some lower. And you'll want to keep this hand loose the entire time you're making your bouquet. Otherwise, number one, it will be hard to get your stems in, and number two, you will quickly develop a hand cramp, and that is no fun. So there we go. The other benefit of keeping your hand loose is that as you go along, you can really raise and lower the level that the flowers are at. So you may start with a hydrangea a little taller and then decide you want it to sink in a little bit. And so by loosening the grip on your hand, you're able to make those adjustments as you go along. This is coming together beautifully. Okay, so let's add some of our star flowers. And today we've got two different star flowers. And by star, I mean superstars. I've got these beautiful plum sunflowers. They have that perfect mahogany tint to their pale yellow petals, and they fade in an ombre from the center to the outside, and they're really, really gorgeous. Now, the sunflowers, as you know, could be sort of a heavier stemmed flower, and so that head might need some extra structure and support. So that's why I wait until now to put them into the bouquet, so that they can actually lay, their little heads can rest on the hydrangea or on the seedum or within the greenery, so that their heads have support and they're able to shine like the stars that they are. So these bouquets are perfect to gift as hostess gifts. Congratulations on a great job at your recital. How about, hey, it's the weekend, you made it through, here's some flowers to enjoy. Again, there's really no real serious reason you need to gift flowers except that they are just beautiful and you want them to be enjoyed. Okay, so now you can see I've got my sunflowers all around, and I have faced them around the edge so that they're pointing out, giving that really radial look. Everything's radiating like as if it's coming off spokes of a wheel or the rays of a sun. Our next superstar flower, these precious, gorgeous dahlia. We're going to sink these in. Now these have some pretty short stems, and so because this is the shortest stemmed item in our bouquet, it's actually going to dictate the length of our bouquet. When we're finished, we're going to cut the entire bouquet to be the length of the dahlia. Otherwise, the dahlia will not be in water, and they will wilt very quickly if they're not in water. But that's great because a nice compact bouquet is always really beautiful to put in a vase on your kitchen island or on a coffee table. And it really allows you to see every bloom that's in the bouquet. Let's see here. Again, I'm turning the bouquet as I make it, loosening my grip, threading the flowers through, lacing the flowers through. And when I can, sort of tilting the head of the dahlia and allowing it to be supported by the flowers that are underneath it, just like we did with the sunflowers. Gosh, it's so pretty. Now I'm allowing the pittosporum and the fern that we started with to really still remain as my outer layer. We could add flowers in directly on the outskirts of the bouquet, but by doing this, by adding all the flowers to the interior of the bouquet, it sort of saves us a step at the end if we don't have more materials to add in, or we don't want to add more materials. We've already got our collar established. Now as you work, some of the flowers will shift, and this fern has shifted, so I'm actually going to relocate him, and I'm going to strip him a little bit further, and I'm going to thread that right through there to make sure we're evenly balanced with the fern. There we go. That's really gorgeous. Okay, we just have 2 finishing touches to put on here. First up, I have some grasses. Autumn is the perfect time, and there are so many beautiful grasses that are popping up everywhere, both wanted and unwanted in some folks' gardens. And I love the texture and the movement that a fall grass adds to a bouquet. Really, really gorgeous. And so I've actually got several stems of these, and I'm putting them in clusters together. So they're all 3 or 4 stems. I'm holding them together close to the bottom, and that will help me feed it in through the bulk of the bouquet as one. And once I see it start coming out the other side, I can adjust my hand and pull it through. Next up, I have another type of grass. This one is a little fuzzier and has some really gorgeous texture to it. It's going to help with our overall texture of our bouquet. Texture is so important in all of our designs, but it's really prevalent in fall designs. So we've got quite a few textures here. We've got the fuzzy of the seedum and the grasses. We've got the sort of waxy of the dahlias, and the fluffy of the amaranthus. So it really gives you sort of a come touch and feel call, which I love. And then one more type of grass. This is a more upright and paler colored version. We'll thread that through in 2 or 3 places. And so what we're doing with these grasses by leaving them longer is we're actually creating line within the bouquet. Now, most of these flowers are round in shape and form, so they're not creating so much of a line that the eye can travel through. But by adding the grasses here at the end, the eye will start at the top of the grasses and travel down to our beautiful florals within. Okay. The only other flower in here that I think might, sort of function as a line flower would be the sword fern, which is doing the same thing, or I'm sorry, the flat fern, which is doing the same thing as the grasses, and then the amaranthus, which is really just bringing the eye to the outside of the bouquet. And here's our last burst of grass here. Nice and even. Now, I had some aspidistra here on my table, just in case I needed it to go around my collar. But I think I'm going to change my mind. We're going to skip the aspidistra because I'm really happy with how the pittosporum and the flat fern are collaring my bouquet as is. And I don't think we really need to add anything else around the edge. I do want to add one last extra special touch, and that are these dried orange slices. So I've actually created a little, what I call a lily pad for the orange slices to sit on. And check out my YouTube channel for the video on the how-to on how to make these lily pads, because this is a really great technique and it's useful for a lot of different things. So check out that video. But I'm going to take these orange slices, which smell divine. I wish you could smell them. Once they dry, they smell like creamsicles. And I'm going to thread these through the bouquet just like I did everything else. And not only is this going to give us another beautiful color in our color harmony or our color palette here. But it's also giving us fragrance and a completely different texture, unexpected item in our bouquet that we're gifting. And these of course are dried oranges, so they will live on once the flowers perish, and the person that you gift the flowers to can take them out and set them in a little vase on their table and just continue to enjoy the fragrance that they're giving. Okay, gorgeous, gorgeous. Now, when I'm getting to this point where I'm just about finished, I like to just hold it in place temporarily with a chenille stem or a pipe cleaner, just until I get it all trimmed and wrapped with my decorative wrap. So I take the chenille stem and I crank it really tight. So when you crank or you twist wires, you keep the tails separated, and then with your thumb and forefinger, you twist 2 or 3 times so that the twist is forced to go back into the stems, as opposed to twisting lightly and having the twist come back out the other side. So now I've got a really good hold on that, and I'm going to trim my stems. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the dahlias are my limiting factor for stem length. So I looked within the stems and I found where those dahlias were ending, and that's where I chose to cut the rest of the stems. So we're going to clear this spot a bit so that I can lay it down and add my decorative finish. Now, whenever you lay a bouquet down, you want to do it carefully because, of course, if you're not careful, one of these could snap. So I always give my bouquet a turn and try to find, this is sort of a flat spot, so I'll carefully lay it down here. And I've got some raffia here that I'm going to use to finish my bouquet. So I just take the raffia, wrap it around the stems, and then I'm going to twist it and go around again just to make my wrap a little bit thicker and more substantial. It looks better to have that kind of weight down on the stems, and functionally it will hold your stems a little better if you wrap it around 2 or 3 times. And then I'm just going to do a really tight knot. At that point, you can remove the chenille stem that you had temporarily holding your stems. And maybe give your raffia a trim. And now you've got a gorgeous bouquet to gift. I hope you learned some tips and tricks, and that you can forage up some flowers or visit your local flower shop to get some flowers to gift to your friends for just being a friend. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.